So on the right side here, you have your channel box, um, attribute editor, model and toolkit and stuff. So you see here docked on the side, there's these different tabs. One of them is called the channel box. The channel box essentially refers to all like the transforms, rotations, scales of your object that you've got selected. Uh, so if you want it to be more precise with your movements and keep track of things, maybe you need a post every meter or every certain increment. I could copy this and say it needed to be every 2, or I'll do a higher number, every 100. So if I copy that again, do 200. You know, if you want to be more precise and moving things around. It's similar here with your scales. You can click on these and middle mouse left and right with them, and they will update as well. So rotate, scales. Um, a really important thing to mention would be the inputs here. So this is essentially your history of your object or your model. By default, when you create one of these objects, Maya is going to have this bit of history called the polysphere or polycube, whatever. Um, these you can essentially go and change the subdivisions of the models, or like say the height or width. So if I click on this sphere and click on inputs, a hotkey for these as well, if you want to see it in your viewport, is by pressing T on your keyboard. So if I press T, I get this little pop-up, and it's the same things that are in here. So I can uh, turn down the subdivisions on this. So essentially, we're just reducing the poly count. Um, Particularly for Rogue style, like because of the way it's lit and shaded, we don't need the poly count to be high. It's pretty low poly style. So by default, something like a sphere is already, probably more than what's necessary for the shape. So, 12, 12, 8, 8 is a good sort of base for using a sphere for an object when you're modeling in Rogue style. Um, but if I was to look at this cube and put it back to scale 1, uh, important thing to sort of mention about these is this bakes things into the shape. So if these scales, if I was to scale this, you can see the digit goes up. Um, just if I wanted this to be a bit, stretched out and taller, I'm changing the transforms of this. But if I don't bake that in, uh, if I came and put 1 in this, it goes back to a cube. So the difference of using the inputs, if I change the width of this, the height, these stay 111, so that this is baked into the actual object. So if I was to click on this and change the scale, depth, if I wanted to go back to that shape that I'd made that wasn't, just a cube, if I press M1 on all these, it's going to go back to this shape rather than the default cube of 1, 1, right? So it's good to keep track of, or sort of change these before you start modeling if you need more divisions or stuff or different height. So the subdivisions here, it's just a way of adding more cuts into the geometry before you start working with it, instead of having to use other tools like the multi-cut or anything like that. So next you have the modeling toolkit. We'll have videos covering all the different tools in here and how to use them and best sort of times to use them. So I'll not cover these, but this is just where you would find it docked on the side here. If you can't see any of these docked, if they've went away, like if the tab's gone, at the top here you'll see, if you hover over your mouse, you can bring them back. So if I click all these, it'll bring these tabs back. Up here at the top, an important one to mention is this. So this is the tool settings. So a lot of the tools that you use will have different sort of settings. So if I was to just quickly jump into a tool, um, the tool settings will have all the sort of things you can change over here. Uh, You can undock this as well and put it where you want, or if you're working on a second screen, maybe have it on a second screen and just have it open all the time. Um, but to toggle it on and off, it's this button right here. Um, Underneath this channel box here, you'll have display animation. So these are as a layer system that we can put objects in and either turn them off or lock them, so we can't select them. Um, which can be handy if you're working particularly with references in your scene. You know, you don't want to always be selecting them in the background by accident. So like normally you would have a reference put in a layer and locked. Um, Below that, you won't need to know too much of for like what we're covering in Roki. It's essentially just automation tools. Um, but there is one important thing down the bottom here, which will be your output or your script editor. Uh, Here it pretty much tells you anything that you're doing in Maya. So you can see if I select an object, say select R cube, you can find uh, custom scripts and stuff that you can paste in here and it'll run it. But the important thing about this is it'll show you any errors or anything you have. So if you run into a problem, you know, Maya will normally have a red bar that pops up here and it'll tell you why something didn't work or an issue with something. Which is always handy if you need to like search and Google it. You know, chances are you'll find an answer by Googling whatever pops up down here. Right, so close that. Um, this is the timeline editor. So this is an animation tool. I'll just quickly brush over it because we'll not be using it. Essentially, what you use to add keyframes and animation to things. So if I add two keyframes, you know, I can make it move. Um, Maybe if there's some environment things happening in your scene, you know, something falls down or if a door needs to open or close or whatever, maybe we'll make a video on it. But for now, just be aware that's what this is. You'll have the attribute editor. So the attribute editor is pretty much everything that's sort of on your object selected. So you can see here I have a load of stuff based on what the shape is. So I can like look at subdivisions, displacement and stuff. But I will also have history on one of these tabs. So I added this edge loop. Um, so that's what this is. So I can come in and change that. So you can see by changing that, it's went in and out of these. Um, Generally, you wouldn't really change stuff in these tabs after you've done it. But you know, the more things I do to this object, the more tabs there's going to be on that window. And it can be, so you can see I've got like split 19 the way up. So it can get crowded. And you can see I got a little history here. But this will be where you find stuff like your material applied to the object. So by default, Ma'll have Lambert 1 applied to everything that's made. So generally you don't want to change Lambert 1 because anything that you make will share that material. Um, so rule of thumb, don't change Lambert 1, just keep it the way it is and apply a new material to something if you want a different color.